All right, can you kill the bubble guppies in the background too? All right, it was a trying little day here, but we got everything going. Welcome back, everyone. Robert Falcon. Jacob Falcon. I'm tired. He's worked a full day. Back here for episode 5. And we'll start off with the NBA like we've been doing right now. And we have finals started last night. And also big news today. The great Shaquille O'Neal has retired. We'll touch back on that. The conference finals were
all but exciting.
Yeah, really. What I expected in the Western Conference. I was a little shocked by the way Chicago kind of went down with almost like, I don't want to say a lack of effort, because being competing in sports, you like to think that everybody tries.
So, almost like the other players gave up.
Well, I mean, we had touched on it, me and you, and I had spoken with Justin. I know you spoke with some of your buddies. The Bulls couldn't shoot, and that was just the problem. That's what it came down to, and they credited LeBron with stopping Rose, and I got so sick and tired of hearing that. He met him at half court, and he got doubled. LeBron didn't stop Rose. LeBron can't stop Rose. Nobody can stop Rose.
Though overall played really good defense.
At team defense was outstanding.
Really good team defense, which stifled Rose and made other players try to beat them. And you stop Rose, the Bulls really are an average team.
I mean, they overachieved. I mean, they weren't better than Boston. They weren't better than Miami.
Losing streak all year.
Until it mattered, then they did. But yeah, and I mean, I just hats off to the Heat. I'm not taking anything away. I think actually they're
shut a lot of people up. Is what they've really done.
And I mean, when they first came, they had a victory party. So they didn't. They were supposed to be a lot of preseason picks had them and the Lakers going. So they didn't shut as many people. They shut people like us up.
Yeah.
And they still haven't shut me up. I mean, they have 3 bona fide stars, 2 and 1A, and they're playing good defense right now. Their athleticism surprised me with the way that they play defense athletically. That surprised me. I'm not gonna sit back and go if Rondo was healthy or if this happened or if this happened. They made it, and they're where they're at, and they're up 1-0, and deservedly so. That's what you play for is home court advantage. They have it. The Bulls weren't as good as everybody was putting them up to be. Mike Wilbon, who's a Chicago homer. Oh, they're the greatest team. They're not that good. I mean, Rose settles for so many jump shots. I couldn't believe that was the same guy that I'd watched all season long. And that's basically where the Eastern Conference Finals led to it. And
the West, the games were close, but overall, the Mavericks. But you want to talk about team giving up?
Oh, they didn't give up. The Thunder. Come on now. They didn't give up. They got beat by a far better team first of all.
Yeah, they lost confidence after they blew that game, the 15-point lead.
Well, that'll crumble.
That's something the Mavericks have done for the past.
They're a young team, and a young team. It shows the difference between a young team like the Thunder and a veteran team like the Mavericks. The Mavericks blew a 23-point lead to the Blazers, and have only lost one game. Had only lost before last night, one game since then. So it shows the difference between having a young team with, don't get me wrong, a tremendously talented kid like Kevin Durant, who I think him and Blake Griffin are the future 1-2 best players in the NBA. And Westbrook's a talented player. I think he kind of hurt him a little bit.
Westbrook's ego kind of got in the way. He started taking bad shots. There was times Durant would touch the ball 4 or 5 times on the court. When you have a player like Durant, he's got to touch the ball regardless.
Almost every time. Almost every time. I agree.
And if you watch, teams like the Heat, the Lakers, the Mavericks, Dirk, Kobe, LeBron, Wade, those guys touch the ball every time they're on the court.
Sometimes too much with Kobe, but then Kobe tries to do something that's so egomaniacal, where he's like, all right, well, I'll just pass, and he shoots like 3 times in the first half, and it's like, dude, you're the best player, do what you do best. But we don't talk about the Lakers. They got swept out of the playoffs. It's so nice to say that. But coming to the finals, the best player coming in the finals of all the NBA playoffs was Dirk. Hands down. Anybody that would have said anything different wasn't watching the playoffs.
Yeah.
LeBron had a solid.
LeBron's had a really good postseason.
And Wade's had a good postseason.
Wade struggled against the Bulls, but overall he's had a good postseason.
Bosh had a huge game against the Bulls.
One
after we did a show, and it was almost like he'd heard me dogging him, and he put up 34 that night. And their maturity showed against the Bulls' immaturity. It's the same thing with Dallas and Oklahoma City. I can see the Bulls in Oklahoma City playing in the finals in a couple of years. very easily because the Celtics are getting older. The Heat aren't going to get much younger. So that really is, it just all came down to youth and some talent too, but more or less youth. And the two veteran teams won, and last night, game one, I didn't get to see it, and I
it was a good game back and forth, but in the second half, the Heat kind of took over. Jason Terry never got it going in the second half. The Heat started making their shots down the second half, and that's pretty much a game of defense. And the final score was 92-84.
Yeah, and they had 44 at halftime, the Mavericks did. I saw something Stephen A. Smith wrote that said the Heat won the series last night because they'll never play that bad at home, and it's so pathetic that someone would say that, especially someone with his basketball intelligence. It's a 7-game series. If the Heat go up 2-0, if people look back just as far as 5 years ago, the Mavericks were up 2-0.
And had a 13-point lead.
And had a 13-point lead.
In game 3.
And ended up losing 4 straight. Is that going to happen again? I don't know.
Probably not, but...
But Dirk hurt his finger also, which is a little bit of an issue. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that and see how that goes. But I'm still not saying anything until the 2 games in Dallas are done.
There's 3 in Dallas.
That's right. It goes 2-3-2. The first 2 are done because it might be 4-6.
Which to me is a kind of an advantage for a team who doesn't have home court. You play 3 straight at home. You still won in the first game 1 and 2. You got 3 in a row at home.
Yeah, but since they brought it in, I don't like it. Since they brought it in, no team has ever won 3 in a row at home.
Really?
So it's really, if you're the top 2 teams in the NBA, you're not going to lose 3 in a row.
It's really
it should go back to 2-2-1-1-1. They do it for TV ratings, and that's what the whole thing is about. That's why there's a week in between the conference finals and the finals, and it used to be like that back in the day. But I mean, that being said, the Heat have made it. They built this team. Them and the Bulls built their teams to beat the Celtics, and they both got farther than the Celtics. The Celtics had set a bar, and now everybody's in the Eastern Conference is trying to get the core players, 3 great players, whatever, together, and and hats off to Pat Riley. He finagled it. The league let it happen, which again, like the Pau Gasol trade a few years ago to LA, the league can veto things from happening, and now there's a rule where guys can't do certain things like they're doing with the Heat, but yet they let it happen once. It's a star-driven league, and the bigger the star, the more leeway with the refs, with the front office, with
the league. Everybody does that,
and it's ridiculous. But anyway, I watch it. I love the NBA. I love the Celtics, and I love watching great players. And so we'll continue to watch it. And speaking of great players, Shaquille O'Neal's officially hung up. And
Twitter.
Yeah. This last year was a shame to see him go down the way he did. I've seen Shaquille O'Neal's whole career, and he's the greatest center I've ever seen. I always say I never get to see Wilt, I never get to see Russell, so I can't really put him up against those 2 guys. He's the most dominant player, physically dominant player I've ever seen in my life, maybe in any sport. And he was a great guy. He was entertaining. He was never really hated by people. I mean, when he was on the Magic and he was on the Lakers, and I can't stand the Lakers. It was like he was so great, and he was such an entertaining character and just a great athlete. You couldn't hate Shaq, and he'll go down to me until anybody shows me different, and I don't see it happening. He'll go down as the greatest center I've ever seen.
Yeah, 3 Finals MVPs. He won 4 championships. 3 the Lakers, 1 with the Heat. He won the NBA MVP in 2000, 15 All-Star games.
Only 1 MVP, which is just mind-boggling. But I mean, he was the best player in the league post Jordan for a long time.
And for a while, he had the highest. He led the league in field goal percentage for a few years.
Well, when you dunk it every time. I mean, it's
tore 2 rims down. He add that to his resume.
Tore 1 down to the ground. Or a whole basketball, just the whole thing, the whole unit down to the ground. But Shaquille O'Neal will be missed. He was always entertaining. A great interview. You would see him. He always was happy and upbeat, and got fouled harder than anybody. They even invented a word, hack-a-shack, for him. And if he could only have learned to shoot
60%,
he would have been the all-time leading scorer in the NBA. I think it was 64% is what they said.
He missed 5,137 free throws, 2nd most all time.
And the guy was just. And a lot of people forget how great he was when he was with Orlando, because they remember the Laker years. And
a lot of people forget how great he was on the Lakers, because he was looking at Kobe all the time.
There were some years on the Lakers where he was overweight, out of shape, and still dominated. When he was with the Magic, he was devastating. He was explosive. He was like Blake Griffin with size.
Ugh.
And it was nothing that the league had ever seen. And Shaquille O'Neal will be missed. And I was glad that he only spent 1 year with the Celtics. Unfortunately, he wasn't healthy. I wish he could have been, because he gave some quality minutes when he played. They had the best record in the league when he was healthy. They were 29-5.
He still got fouled. He still went to the line every time. No one guarded him. He's a big guy, obviously.
Yeah, he was a monster. But that, well, that's gonna do it on the NBA. We're gonna wrap this up here, and we're gonna come back with a little bit of baseball.